Picture this a chilly, foggy morning at Horse Guards Parade in the heart of London, where the air is thick with anticipation. A crowd of tourists buzzes with excitement, cameras at the ready, as a powerful Chinese colonel strides purposefully toward the iconic line of British Royal Guards. No one could have predicted what was about to unfold. In just a few minutes, the nearby embassy staff would be left speechless, frozen in shock, as an unprecedented confrontation erupted before their eyes. Before we dive deeper into this tense encounter, we'd love for you to be part of our growing community. Hit that subscribe button if you're intrigued, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hear what you think about this clash of wills. Now, let's step into the scene and meet the two men at the center of this unforgettable moment. It's early morning, and the mist clings to the ground at Horse Guards Parade, a historic site where the changing of the guard ceremony draws visitors from around the globe. The cobblestones are damp from the night's drizzle, and the faint sound of chatter fills the air as tourists huddle together, eager to capture a glimpse of British tradition. The Royal Guards stand in perfect formation, their red tunics and towering bearskin hats a striking contrast against the grey sky. Each guard is a symbol of discipline, trained to remain unflinching no matter the circumstance. Among them is Lance Corporal Harland, a young but seasoned soldier whose face is a mask of stoic determination. Harland has stood guard here countless times, enduring rain, heat, and the endless clicks of camera shutters. His goal is simple yet profound: to uphold the honor of the British Army and the centuries-old traditions of the Royal Guard. He knows that every movement, every glance, is watched by hundreds of eyes, and he carries that responsibility with quiet pride. For Harland, this is more than a job. It's a duty etched into his very being. He stands tall, his polished boots rooted to the ground, his rifle held with precision, ready to face whatever the day may bring. But on this particular morning, the atmosphere shifts as a new figure enters the scene. Colonel Weizhou, a high-ranking officer from the Chinese military, cuts through the crowd with an air of authority that demands attention. Dressed in a crisp, dark uniform adorned with medals that gleam even in the dim light, Colonel Zhou is a man accustomed to respect. His stern face, lined with years of command, betrays no hint of hesitation as he approaches the line of guards. Known for his unyielding demeanor, Colonel Zhou has built a reputation as a leader who expects obedience and deference wherever he goes. Today, as he visits London on an official delegation, he carries with him a desire to assert his presence, to be acknowledged as a figure of power even on foreign soil. His sharp eyes scan the guards, searching for a reaction, a sign of recognition. He stops just a few feet from Lance Corporal Harland, his polished shoes clicking against the stone as he halts. The crowd senses something unusual, and a hush begins to fall over the spectators. All eyes are on these two men, one a symbol of British tradition, the other a force of foreign authority, standing face to face in a moment that feels like it could ignite at any second. Colonel Zhou adjusts his posture, standing even taller, and removes his dark sunglasses with a deliberate motion. His gaze locks onto Harland, piercing and unyielding, as if trying to pierce through the guard's impassive exterior. Then, in a voice that carries across the quiet parade ground, he issues a command that sends a ripple of shock through the onlookers. "Salute me, soldier." The words hang in the air, sharp and demanding, echoing off the historic buildings that surround the parade ground. Tourists exchange glances, unsure if they heard correctly. A few gasp audibly, while others fumble with their phones, eager to capture what might happen next. Nearby, embassy staff who had been observing from a distance freeze, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. This is no ordinary interaction. It's a direct challenge to protocol, to tradition, to the very essence of what the Royal Guards represent. But Lance Corporal Harland remains utterly still. His face shows no flicker of emotion, no sign of wavering. His eyes stare straight ahead, fixed on some distant point beyond Colonel Zhou, as if the man before him doesn't exist. His training holds firm. A Royal Guard does not react, does not engage. does not break formation unless under direct orders from a superior within their chain of command. The tension in the air is palpable, thick like the fog that still lingers. It feels as though the entire world has paused, waiting to see what will happen next in this silent battle of wills. Colonel Joe's expression darkens as the seconds tick by with no response from Harland. His jaw tightens, and a flush of frustration creeps up his neck. He steps even closer, breaching the invisible boundary that separates the guards from the public, and points a gloved finger directly at Harland's face. His voice rises, laced with scorn, as he mocks the guard's silence. Is this British discipline? Just statues in uniform. The insult cuts through the quiet morning, and the crowd reacts with a murmur of unease. Some tourists shift uncomfortably, sensing the growing hostility, while others raise their phones higher, recording every moment of this extraordinary scene. A young woman whispers to her companion, "Is he allowed to do that?" Her friend shakes his head, unsure. As the atmosphere grows heavier by the second, embassy staff exchange worried looks, aware of the potential diplomatic ramifications of this encounter. They know that a misstep here could escalate far beyond this parade ground, perhaps even into the realm of international headlines. But Harland remains a pillar of resolve. He stands as if carved from stone, his posture perfect, his gaze unwavering. Not a muscle twitches, not a breath seems out of place. His silence is louder than any words could be, a powerful statement of discipline and duty that only seems to fuel Colonel Joe's anger further. The more Harland refuses to react, the more the colonel's frustration boils over, his composure slipping in front of the watching crowd. The confrontation reaches a fever pitch as Colonel Joe, now visibly enraged, lets his temper take full control. His face flushes a deep red, and his voice rises to a shout that reverberates across Horse Guards Parade. "You will salute me, I am your superior." The demand is thunderous, filled with a mix of fury and desperation, as if he believes sheer volume might force Harland to bend. The crowd is now openly agitated, some stepping back instinctively while others lean in, captivated by the drama unfolding before them. A child tugs at his mother's sleeve, asking why the man is yelling, but she shushes him, her eyes wide with anticipation. Embassy staff are on edge, one of them whispering urgently into a phone, likely reporting the incident to a higher authority. The situation teeters on the brink of chaos, the air crackling with the potential for something irreversible. But just as it seems the moment might spiral out of control, a new figure emerges from the sidelines. A British officer, clad in a neatly pressed uniform, steps forward with a calm but commanding presence. His face is stern yet composed, his movements measured as he approaches the scene. He positions himself between Colonel Joe and Harland, creating a physical barrier that signals the end of this direct confrontation. In a voice that is firm yet devoid of hostility, he addresses the colonel. "Sir, I must ask you to step back behind the barrier. This is a ceremonial post, and interaction with the guards is not permitted." His tone leaves no room for argument, yet it carries a respect that aims to de-escalate rather than provoke. Colonel Joe hesitates, his chest heaving with barely contained anger. For a long moment, he glares at the officer, then at Harland, as if weighing his options. But the weight of the crowd stares, the silent judgment of the embassy staff, and the unyielding stance of the British officer seem to press down on him. Finally, with a sharp tug at his uniform to straighten it, he turns on his heel. His departure is abrupt, his steps heavy with humiliation as he walks away, the crowd parting silently to let him pass. Whispers follow in his wake, a mix of relief and disbelief at what they've just witnessed. As the tension slowly dissipates, the focus returns to Lance Corporal Harland, who remains exactly as he was before the encounter began. He stands tall, unmoved, a living embodiment of discipline and loyalty to his duty. Not once did he flinch. Not once did he break the sacred code of the Royal Guard. His stillness speaks volumes, a quiet victory over the storm of ego and aggression that tried to shake him. The tourists, now recovering from the intensity of the moment, begin to murmur among themselves, some offering nods of respect toward Harland, A few even clap softly, though the guard gives no indication of hearing them. The embassy staff exhale, their relief palpable as the risk of a larger incident fades. The fog seems to lift slightly, as if mirroring the clearing of tension, and the parade ground returns to its usual rhythm of camera clicks and hushed conversations. But the memory of this moment lingers, a story that those present will recount for years to come. Later, in the quiet of the guard's changing room, the atmosphere is different. The day's duties are done, and the soldiers shed their ceremonial gear, their faces finally free to show emotion. Harlan sits on a bench, polishing his boots with the same meticulous care he showed on duty. Around him, his fellow guards discuss the incident, their voices a mix of admiration and curiosity. One of them, a veteran guard with graying hair, leans over with a slight grin. "You didn't even blink, mate. How'd you keep your cool with that bloke shouting in your face?" Harlan looks up, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Though his words are measured, it's what we're trained for, isn't it? You don't move. You don't react. It's not about me. It's about what we stand for. Another guard, younger and still buzzing from the day's events, chimes in, still. Must have been hard not to say something back. I'd have been itching to tell him where to go. The room fills with a low chuckle, but Harlan shakes his head. Nah, that's not the point. It's bigger than us. You stand there for the Queen, for the country, for everyone watching. You let them down if you break. His words hang in the air, a reminder of the deeper meaning behind their role. The veteran guard nods slowly, his expression thoughtful. Aye. True strength isn't in shouting or throwing your weight around. It's in staying steady when everything's pushing you to crack. The conversation drifts to other topics, but the lesson of the day remains unspoken, yet understood among them. Discipline outshines ego every time. And that brings us to the heart of this story. True strength isn't found in loud demands or displays of power. It's in the quiet courage to remain unmoved, to hold fast to your principles even when the pressure is immense. Lance Corporal Harlan didn't just stand guard over a parade ground that day. He stood guard over a legacy of honor and duty that stretches back centuries. Colonel Joe, for all his authority, walked away diminished not by force, but by the sheer power of unwavering resolve. So, we turn the question to you, our valued viewers. What would you do in a situation like this if you were in Harlan's boots, facing down a challenge to your integrity? Would you hold your ground? Or if you were in the crowd, how would you react to such a clash of wills? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And let's start a conversation about what strength and discipline mean to you. And if you found this story compelling, if you want to explore more real-life moments where character triumphs over conflict, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We're here to bring you stories that inspire, challenge, and make you think. And we can't do it without your support. Now, let's reflect a bit more on what unfolded at Horse Guards Parade, because there's so much to unpack from this brief but intense encounter. Think about the setting itself. Horse Guards Parade isn't just a tourist spot. It's a place steeped in history, where the echoes of past monarchs and military triumphs still linger. Every day, the Royal Guards stand as living links to that history, embodying a tradition that has weathered wars, political upheavals, and the passage of time. For someone like Colonel Joe to challenge that tradition so publicly wasn't just a personal slight to Harlan. It was a test of the very values that the Guards represent. And Harlan's response, or rather his lack of one, was a powerful reminder that some things are beyond provocation. Duty, honor, and discipline aren't just words to these soldiers. They're the bedrock of their identity. For our audience, especially those of you over 45 who've likely faced your own tests of resolve in life, this story might resonate on a deeper level. Perhaps you've been in situations where you had to stand firm against pressure, whether at work, in family matters, or in personal challenges. Maybe you've had to bite your tongue when every instinct screamed to lash out, knowing that staying calm was the greater victory. Harlan's example is a mirror to those moments, showing us that strength isn't always loud or aggressive. It's often silent, steady, and unshakable. Let's consider Colonel Joe's perspective for a moment as well, because understanding both sides adds depth to this story. Here's a man who, by all accounts, is used to commanding respect. In his world, authority is acknowledged with salutes, with deference, with immediate compliance. To step into a foreign setting like Horse Guards Parade and not receive that acknowledgement must have felt like a direct affront to his identity. His reaction: anger, mockery. Escalation wasn't just about Harland. It was about a clash of cultures, of expectations, of personal pride. In his mind, he wasn't just demanding a salute. He was demanding validation of his status, his power, his very presence. But in doing so, he misjudged the context. The Royal Guards aren't there to salute visiting officers, no matter their rank. They're there to protect a tradition, a monarchy, a nation. Colonel Joe's insistence on personal recognition collided head-on with an institution that operates on a different set of rules, one where individual ego has no place. For us, watching from the outside, it's a lesson in how misunderstandings can flare into conflict when we assume our norms apply everywhere. It's a reminder to step back, to read the room, to recognize when our expectations might not align with reality. Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation, where a cultural or personal misunderstanding led to tension? How did you handle it? We're curious to know, so share your experiences in the comments. We're all learning from each other here. Now, let's zoom out and think about the broader implications of this incident. What happened at Horse Guards Parade wasn't just a personal standoff. It had the potential to ripple into something much larger. Imagine if Colonel Joe had refused to back down, if he'd pushed past the British officer or caused a physical altercation. The headlines would have been explosive Chinese colonel clashes with Royal Guard in London. Diplomatic relations could have been strained, with statements issued, apologies demanded, and perhaps even retaliatory measures considered. The embassy staff watching from the sidelines knew this all too well, which is why their tension was so visible. They understood that a small spark in a place as public as this could ignite a firestorm of international consequence. Thankfully, the situation was diffused, thanks in large part to the calm intervention of the British officer. His approach, firm yet respectful, authoritative yet not confrontational, showed a mastery of de-escalation that's worth admiring for those of us who've navigated high-stakes situations in our own lives. Whether in professional settings or personal disputes, there's a takeaway here. Sometimes, the best way to resolve conflict isn't to match aggression with aggression, but to stand as a steady, reasonable force that guides everyone back to calm. It's a skill that takes patience and practice, but it can turn a potential disaster into a mere footnote. Let's linger on the crowd for a moment, because their role in this story isn't insignificant. They were more than just spectators. They were witnesses to history, however small. Their reactions, gasps, whispers, the frantic recording on their phones amplified the drama of the moment. In today's world, where every event can be captured and shared instantly, their presence added another layer of pressure. Colonel Joe wasn't just facing Harland or the British officer. He was facing the judgment of a global audience through those lenses. Every shout, every gesture was being documented, ready to be dissected on social media or in news reports. It's a stark reminder of how public behavior carries weight far beyond the immediate moment. For Harland, the crowd's presence might have been a silent reinforcement of why he couldn't break. He knew they were watching, not just for a photo of a guard, but for a story, for a display of what British discipline looks like. And he delivered, giving them an image of strength that no amount of shouting could shatter. For us, especially those who've lived through the rise of social media and instant connectivity, this aspect of the story might hit close to home. How often do we act with the awareness that our words or actions could be broadcast to the world? How does that shape our choices? It's a question worth pondering, and we'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. Let's return to Harland and the quiet aftermath in the changing room, because that scene offers a glimpse into the human side of duty. These guards aren't robots, they're people with thoughts, feelings, and camaraderie. Behind the stoic facade they present to the world, there's a brotherhood, a shared understanding of what it means to wear that uniform. Harlan's reflection on standing for something bigger than himself, for the Queen, for the country, for everyone watching, speaks to a profound sense of purpose. It's not about personal glory or proving a point. It's about being a part of a legacy that transcends the individual. For many of us over 45, who've perhaps served in roles where we had to put the greater good above our own desires, this might resonate deeply. Whether it's in military service, in raising a family, or in leading a team at work, we've all had moments where we had to stand firm for something beyond ourselves. Harlan's story is a tribute to that kind of dedication, a reminder that true strength often lies in selflessness. And for the younger viewers among us, it's an invitation to think about what you stand for, what values you'd hold on to no matter the pressure. Let's expand on this idea of standing for something, because it's at the core of why this moment at Horse Guards Parade matters. Discipline, as Harlan and his fellow guards embody it, isn't just about following rules. It's about embodying a principle, a commitment to something that endures. In a world that often rewards loudness, quick reactions, and self-promotion, there's something profoundly countercultural about their silence, their stillness. It challenges us to rethink what power looks like. Is it in the man who shouts for respect, or in the man who quietly commands it through his actions? For Colonel Joe, power was tied to immediate acknowledgement, to visible displays of authority. For Harlan, power was in restraint, in the unspoken dignity of his role. This contrast isn't just a personal one. It's a philosophical one, a debate about how we define strength in our lives and in our societies. As we navigate our own paths, especially in an age where conflicts big and small seem to erupt daily, Harlan's example offers a quiet guidepost. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Sometimes, standing still is the boldest move you can make. Have you ever faced a moment where staying silent or steady was harder than reacting? What did you learn from it? Share your stories with us in the comments. We're eager to hear how you've navigated your own tests of discipline. Now, let's imagine for a moment what might have happened if this encounter had gone differently. What if Harlan had broken protocol, had stepped out of line to respond to Colonel Joe's taunts? It's unlikely, given the rigorous training of the Royal Guards. But let's consider the possibility. A single word, a single movement, could have shifted the narrative entirely. The crowd might have cheered or jeered, depending on their perspective. But the act would have undermined the very tradition Harlan was there to uphold. The story wouldn't be about discipline triumphing over ego. It would be about a guard who cracked under pressure. The diplomatic fallout could have been messier, with accusations of disrespect flying in both directions. And Harlan himself might have faced consequences within his unit, a stain on a record built on adherence to duty. This hypothetical reminds us how fragile moments like these are, how a single choice can alter the outcome. It also underscores the weight of training, of preparation, of internalizing a code so deeply that it holds even when emotions run high. For those of us who've held positions of responsibility, whether in uniform or not, this might bring to mind times when we've had to rely on our own training or values to keep us steady. Maybe it was a heated meeting where you chose silence over argument, or a family dispute where you prioritized peace over being right. These are the small, often unseen victories that shape who we are. Let's also think about Colonel Joe's departure from the scene, because his exit carries its own weight. As he walked away, adjusting his uniform with a gesture that seemed to reclaim some dignity, what might have been going through his